You are listening to Creativity in Healthcare, hosted by Dr. Matthew J. Taylor, editor of the textbook Fostering Creativity in Rehabilitation. In this podcast, we explore creativity as it relates to how you can foster your own creativity and that of your related healthcare organizations. Healthcare reform hasn't happened yet, but working together, let's explore how we can nurture the next new growth in healthcare delivery.
Welcome to Creativity in Healthcare. I'm your host, Matt Taylor. Today I have the privilege of exploring creativity in healthcare through the experiences of Beverly Price. She's the CEO and founder of the Inner Door Center in Royal Oak, Michigan. Bev's a nationally renowned registered dietitian, exercise physiologist, registered yoga teacher, and a certified eating disorder specialist as credentialed by the International Association of Eating Disorder Professionals. Bev was recognized for a distinctive approach to mindfulness-based eating disorder recovery using yoga therapeutics as a tool. Beverly's created the Reconnect with Food program to benefit individuals with eating disorders and co-occurring disorders, as well as providing mental health services for her local community. She's also a contributor to our textbook, Fostering Creativity in Rehabilitation. As with all our episodes, you'll be able to find our show notes and any links we mention in the interview at www.healthcarecreativity.com. Welcome to the show, Bev.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing great. And we actually have a cold, wintry day in the desert, so it's good to have a nice, warm conversation with you.
Yeah, I think it's warmer in Michigan today.
I suspect so. So I got to ask you, and it's kind of funny, in the Army, the physical therapists and the dietitians were in the same corps. And so we kind of always teased each other back and forth. They talk about the PTs dragging little old ladies around on walkers. And we talk about them sitting in their offices, shuffling around the food pyramid. And that was kind of the sum total of what we thought creativity was in our respective professions. How in the world did you do all of what I just mentioned and, kind of take our listeners through your path of creating this unique and very effective programming that you have?
Well, it's been a long time since I've worked with the food pyramid, so I'm not sure where that is, and even in our clinic as well. But we do have dietitians that do work in some forms traditionally, but we do integrate yoga and its philosophy into most everything we do here at the Inner Door Center in terms of our intensive programming for eating disorder treatment that involves therapy, psychotherapy, nutrition, medication management, and we are combining traditional as well as holistic interwoven together. So it gives our patients a really unique experience.
So you're actually doing interprofessional care? I know we all talk about it, but it sounds like it might be kind of happening there.
It is. And we meet as a team a number of times a week to discuss our patients. So therefore, we truly are working together as a team. And our patient's treatment plan does revolve around different goals, integrating the different professions together.
Wow. And now, which came first, exercise phys or dietitian?
The dietitian.
The dietitian.
The dietitian
and why did you go on to do the exercise phys?
Well, because I was working at the time in a cardiac rehabilitation setting, and that was a whole different lifetime ago. So that part of my career did require the exercise physiology background based on what we were doing with patients at the time. So I can't say that today I really use that, but yet when we do work with patients that have over-exercising issues, that does somewhat come in handy to work with in terms of the knowledge that provided at the time.
Yeah, and then just kind of, it's always fun to watch how people arrive where they are in their career, and so somewhere in there, the eating disorder population and the yoga came in. How did those then show up in your career development there?
Well, that came after. I actually had a nutrition practice after the cardiac rehabilitation career, and I worked with patients privately, one-on-one, And I did integrate the exercise background in that in those years. And then I sold my practice, and now we're up to 2001. And I got into yoga extensively. I took yoga teacher training. And at that point, I realized that the work I was doing with eating disorders in my private practice was really missing something. So, although we had a team approach where we worked together outpatient in
Right.
different settings and communicated on the phone, but I realized that an integral part was missing, and I realized it was the yoga piece as I went through yoga teacher training. And that's when I got back into practice and wanted to involve different disciplines, wanted to involve the yoga to have a complete experience for the patient and to just give them everything possible.
Mhm.
So then we ended up, I honed a couple of professionals, and as we grew, we got our licensure as a partial hospitalization program,
Nice.
which is where patients come here for a day and they go home at night. And this is where we integrate the yoga and all the different professionals' um, contributions into the program, so that we meet the guidelines of the licensed partial of Michigan.
Right.
And we became Joint Commission accredited, so that involved integrating other responsibilities and policies. And we are paneled with most insurance companies, and that's just a whole other topic
Sure.
of
Oh
discussion, of
yeah.
course. But so that's how we developed the program. Well, I developed it and honed the different professionals together
Uh-huh.
to
And
make a complete program.
yeah, and so to our listeners that might not be familiar with yoga from a therapeutic standpoint, it's sort of like, well, why do you have to be stretchy and bendy in order to resolve an eating disorder? What's the yoga you're talking about?
Sure, no, that's a good question, because really the yoga that we're talking about is not just physical. So we do start our day with yoga every morning. The patients come in, they have their vitals done to make sure they're medically stable. They have breakfast, and then we have a yoga that's set up sort of like a class, but yet in tune to individuals' needs. So there might be a number of patients in our program at one time. There could be up to 15, but we do work with individuals while they're in the group to meet their needs. And also, we create a theme that centers around the chakras or energy centers. So the program runs a 7-week initial commitment, although our patients could be in our program up to 21 weeks, sometimes up to a year at a time. And they may be repeating some of the same lessons, but a different take on the chakras, maybe over, because we change up our curriculum over each cycle.
Sure.
So the breakout sessions, there's 2 process groups or skills groups in the morning, and then 2 in the afternoon. There's a lunch and 2 snacks in addition to the breakfast. So we're integrating the philosophy of the chakra of that week into all of the groups that we're doing, into the meal experientials, so that the patients are getting a complete overview of just physical, emotional, and spiritual take on the chakras. So they're
So
not just doing yoga all day long.
right.
They're really learning about it. And really, a lot of the yoga philosophy that we're working with is very congruent with DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy,
Okay.
of acceptance commitment therapy, ACT, that we integrate into our program, and also, of course, the mindfulness based cognitive therapy that
Sure.
we do.
Yeah. And so um so as you know, is that the Reconnect with Food, or is that a different program when you talk?
We call it the Reconnect with Food program. So it's a branded program within the Inner Door Center.
Sure. And so, I mean, I love that name because it feels very safe and solid, especially for a Midwestern Michiganer. Right? There's nothing scary in the name,
Right.
but in the eating disorder realm, there's then obviously a disconnect, right? And how did you come to put those pieces together? You knew something was missing. How we're always trying to figure out where that spark that makes those connections. How did that evolve?
Well, I personally struggled with eating disorder issues, and I found that the yoga was really instrumental into my own healing, and I realized that you could be really creative within it. So it's not just,
Mhm.
again, about a yoga class.
Right.
It's really about integrating all the facets and what the chakras really mean
Yeah.
into what is real and what makes sense. So, for example, if we are on the fifth chakra and we're discussing speaking our truths, we'll integrate that into not just a process group, but maybe into an experiential where the patients might be um, really getting into an activity that they are voicing what is deep inside. So that might be, or on the root chakra, we're looking at family sculpting and what contributed to who they are today and what they can take with them, what they
Mhm.
can discard. So everything has a meaning, and it just makes sense. And it really resonates with the patients because um, they can really understand it on a different level,
So
and
if they
they're
if they're
working
not
towards
so
something.
if they're not speaking their truth, what happens with their relationship with their food? Are there multiple pathologies that show up, or what's?
Well, really, the eating disorder is really a symptom of a whole host of things. So most of our patients struggle with anxiety, depression. Up to 80% could have co-occurring disorders, such as substance use disorders. So really, we're not just focusing on symptom management. We're also focusing on getting their life back together. So many of them are in school, or they've dropped out of school at the college level. So we're helping them really find what their purpose is in life.
Okay, and
and,
that again
and
for
also,
right.
no, go ahead.
Well, for
Uh,
our listeners that aren't familiar with the chakras, because it's basically these areas of within an embodied location where people can develop awarenesses about things around relationships, purpose, higher aspirations, all those sort of things. But you must package it in a way that feels okay to somebody that's in a relatively conservative Midwestern orientation.
oh, for sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
we struggle with that in terms of, yeah, the chakra. Is it a scary word? And we just call it what it is, and we explain what it is and what it means. And actually our patients in our program, as they work with the different themes, they get real comfortable with it. In
Uh-huh.
terms of explaining it to an insurance company, we generally don't use those words. Maybe, we might just focus on the medical and focus on what they're really needing. But yet we sometimes get insurance provider reps that are really into the yoga, so they want to hear everything. So we
Wow.
just have to really tailor it to who we're speaking to.
Yeah. So that's an everyday evolving
Oh yeah.
process
Hmm.
where not only you as a director, but your staff that's frontline delivery and your back office. You've had to create a whole way of understanding for your whole organization, right?
Right, right. And anybody that starts with us, a staff member, we have them go through our program so they really understand what we're doing. And also in our orientation, we are going into more detail about the chakras and what they are. And they're really learning as they are in our program and experiencing it.
Yeah, and then I would imagine then as part of your institutional culture, you're encouraging people to voice their part in the organization and to have that relationship with to reflect that whole process, right?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because they need to understand what we do here, especially if they're trying to talk to a patient on the phone from the first call
Hmm.
to as we onboard them into our programs, for sure.
Yeah. So it's not like flipping the manual to page 16 and reading the script, right?
No, no. So although we do have, if somebody comes in, there's certain questions we have to ask based on our Joint Commission accreditation. And
Sure.
based on that, we're going to funnel them to the right person. So for example, if they do have an eating disorder or a history of an eating disorder,
Right.
they have to get to our intake coordinator, and from there have a battery of assessments in order to determine what level of care is right for them,
Sure.
and additional supports if they're not wanting to do the level of care that we recommend.
Yeah. So that's so when you're out there creating this new way of delivering and that, are you also getting inquiries from colleagues that want to know how do you do it, or are you training other professionals elsewhere to
We
do it?
do, yes.
Tell us
We have
about that.
Yeah, there's other colleagues, not just locally, but really more so nationally, that want to integrate what we do into an individual therapy practice or a treatment center, or even a yoga teacher at their studio maybe wants to have a little more knowledge. So we have a training program through the International Association of Yoga Therapists. We're a charter member school, and we meet the guidelines for delivering this program. Um, and more so now, because the guidelines have changed, we can do a certification for people who haven't started the program in order to be grandfathered in.
Oh,
And also being able to work with other places that do offer full training where they can take a part of our training to complete the requirements as a specialty.
yeah. Wow, that's great. Now, and are you hearing back stories of either success and replication or innovations?
Yes, and it's great because we keep in touch with all of our trainees over
Right.
time, and especially the ones that have been with us for quite a long time through a lot of different repeat retreats and learning. And it is really great to hear what they're doing because they may have the core of it, but they've really made it their own.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I would think, tell me about how's that feel? Because I know you spend lots of nights just laying there trying to figure out how everything's going to open up and work again in the morning. But when you hear those kind of things back, what does that do for you personally? When you hear of somebody innovating or having a success, how does that nurture you? How does that affect you?
It's a great feeling because I think that this is where rehab is really going to, a little more creative and also using evidence-based therapy, and it doesn't have to be dry. And we know that the research is showing that talk therapy can only go so far.
Right.
And there has to be some somatic experience for somebody to really transform, not just talk, but they have to really experience it and really embody it.
Yeah. Have to enact it into the world, right? That has to be
Right.
part of what they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hmm.
Wow. So how come you're a creator? How come you couldn't just do what everybody else was doing?
That would be really hard for my personality. That's that. I'm not one to follow rules, and it just my personality is more creative. I'm more of the designer, and I'm not that good maybe at details. So that's maybe for other members of my staff. And we really have a great staff, a real integrated staff, and they all bring their own uniqueness and their own expertise from administrative to clinical
Sure.
to really make the program a great program.
Yeah, because in that textbook we did together, that was chapter 8. That having the creative idea is the easy. If it's a two-sided coin, the easy side of the coin is having a great idea. Oh, let me integrate all these things into eating disorders. The other side of the coin is implementing, right?
Oh, right. And I think you need a strong team. You have to really surround yourself with people that know more than you. So, for example, my marketing person today, Megan, is extremely technical. So she figured out this whole Zoom. So, yeah, she'll shake her head. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good. And what do you go? What your experience with creativity is? It kind of ebb and flow? Do you have long dry periods? Kind of share with the listeners what that's like for you personally when you feel like, oh, now we're doing something new and juicy, and other days it's just kind of slogging getting the work done.
Well, I think my mind is always going. So even I can be sleeping and my mind is still going. But also I feel that my yoga practice, my own personal practice, is really helpful in really continuing to spur on my creativity. So
okay, in what way? How do you feel that?
I think it just allows me to take a step back where there's no cell phone, there's no distractions, and I can just focus on my experience on my mat. And that's where I think when I can take it off my mat to really create. So I think it just does something inside transformative that that we're still learning about. So
Sure, yeah, and again, that's what we're trying to help our clients do: is pause, look inward, sense, right, and gain insight, right, and so you've got that as part of your personal self-care routine.
Right.
And what happens when you miss your practice for a week?
I'm not that nice of a person. I mean, it's very, very hard. It's very hard. So it really centers me. And it's tough now because it gets dark early. And even though we're lucky now in Michigan, it's been a very mild winter, it's very easy to sleep in and kind of blow it off,
Right.
So you really have to force yourself.
So there's a discipline of self-care that, again, in the book we talk about. It's not so much you can be creative, but you have to kind of prime yourself for those opportunities. And if we've let our mind, body, central nervous system, the whole person thing get to an edgy part, that's where you personally get edgy, or you get dry, and things just don't happen, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So I would imagine, since it's not in your personality not to break new ground, see anything on the horizon that's going to be the next thing you push at or try to generate differently?
Well, what I'd like to do is really expand these training programs, because it is hard to focus on the patient population and then also put the energy into the professionals, but I would like to see it expand more so. And we are looking to grow and be able to service more people in our area from a patient standpoint, and even nationally as well.
Yeah. And so that would be, do you have do you lean towards one half of that part, or are you pretty evenly split on where you really want to invest your time?
Well, I think the patient population now is really what is our biggest market, especially around here, is our biggest avenue. So I think that we have grown pretty organically, and I think as things will happen when they're supposed to,
Right.
and probably as people get more comfortable with it, and as people really start accepting it and understanding it, that part will grow as well.
Sure. So it sounds like you've developed some, even though you don't like sitting around doing it, you've also paradoxically have gotten okay with letting things emerge too.
Right. Exactly. That's how they've been pretty much in this business.
Yeah, we have to. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Any bits of advice or kind of summary thought you want to leave your colleagues, whether they're exercise physiologists, dietitians, yoga teachers? What, if you had a pearl or something to share, you got any sense of what you might recommend to people that aren't satisfied where they are right now and want to bring something new forward? What might that be?
Well, I would say just the sky is the limit, and don't be afraid to try something new. And I'm involved on a national level with therapists as well, psychotherapists through the International Association of Eating Disorder Professionals too. So that bridges the dietitians, the psychotherapists, the medical professionals. So, really the sky's the limit, and not being afraid to try new things if you're not really happy with what you're doing. And sometimes it's just it's stagnating educationally. So if you're doing the same things, using the same models, and sometimes therapists will say therapy as usual, then it's time to break out and try some different things.
Right. And you'd say that also goes within your own body and sense of movement and internal focus too. They need to have some sort of embodied practice where they slow down and look within.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And it may not be yoga, it may be something else, but something that they really step away.
Right. Well, this is so exciting because we hear all this theory about interprofessionalism, and then to meet somebody that's out there doing it, and not only is it intraprofessional, but I think we could say you're advocating it needs to be intraprofessional. As a professional, we need to go in and integrate the various aspects of ourselves as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, how can people reach you? What's your easy contact information, Bev?
They can go to our website, innerdoorcenter.com,
okay,
and they can send a message in the contact page.
Okay.
There's an email contact, and I will definitely get it. So
okay, and you're on all the social media too? Facebook?
We're on Facebook. We have an Inner Door Center page on Facebook. We have a Twitter account, and LinkedIn as well.
Okay, well, we'll get all those on the show notes for people so they can check. And then, do you have any product that you sell? DVDs, books, CDs?
Yes,
That kind of thing?
we actually have a DVD, and I put it together when I first started these programs. So it's kind of a simulated yoga and support program. So we've evolved highly from there,
Yeah.
but it is a great starting point, and that's available on our website as well for
Oh,
purchase.
great, wonderful. Well, I really appreciate your taking time out of your busy day, and I'm sure you got plenty of cats to herd and things to get after. So thanks so much. And you're always the first one that jumps in and says, I will. I think that's really fun.
You know, I was the last one to finish my chapter, but I
That's all right.
really work on that. But thank you for putting together such a great book and such a great resource, and really being a spearhead to pull us all together. So.
Oh, thank you, Bev. And you have a good rest of the day. And folks, I'll put that up in the show notes. So Bev's a pioneer, and she doesn't just have good ideas, she's getting it done. Take care.
Thanks, Matt. Nice to talk with you.
Yes.